There you go, 'cause this town is safe. Everybody knows everybody else. The only bar around. Anyone we're talking to is filling up on the way through town.
Sounds great. Yeah. Lived in the same house all my life. Sit on this bar stool, watch the same fights. Bonfire souvenirs passed down through the air. Brightwire couldn't see.
Pain so sweet. I don't need to know anymore. I don't need to go anywhere. The 36 been flooded for the better half of the year.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. Hey. Hi, my name is Terry Hibbert Ismer, and I am president of the board of Houston Oasis. And I want to welcome you all to our Sunday gathering. Thank you all for being here today. I'd like to remind you of one of our core values, which human hands solve human problems. We've had a lot of that going on this last week with our care team helping people move and move into places and, just take care of a lot of things. And we really appreciate all the work they're doing. And before I start, I would like to thank all of our team that sets this up. And because, when things are done well, it's invisible, right? You don't notice it because it's done so perfectly. And the thing is, they're up here hours early and hours after, getting the stuff from the storage facility, bringing it over here, setting it up, and then running all of it with the, sometimes there's internet, sometimes there's not, sometimes there's this or that, and they make things really happen, and we really appreciate it. We really, really do. So thank you so much. It's like the technicians are always invisible until something happens. But thank you for being there for us every week. We really appreciate it. Before I forget it, I want to tell you that Will is signing people up to vote, and that Emily wants us reminded that there's a cookbook and there's a deadline. Emily?
End of the month,
End of September for the cookbook. Just in case I forget and get all excited with the presentation we have coming up. All right, today's music will be Brightwire, is a Houston returning to the Oasis stage. Brightwire is a Houston-based post-outlaw roots rock band. Their last two albums have been named as top local albums by the Houston Chronicle. Samuel Barker is their primary songwriter and creative force. They will be performing after this meeting at Dan Electro's with Shawn, Hess, and Marty Bush. That show starts at 3 p.m. Anyway, so let's enjoy Brightwire. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, start with a bummer song. Let's do it. Let's start out with Build. Let's build. This is a song about my hometown. Every night the dirt roads, but they let this one alone. My trailer's at the dead end, but there's no place to call home. Shrimp boats in oil fields, the only job still around. When the tourists all pack up and forget this little town. When among spring boredom, till the sun shines again, cooking abstraction till the payday ends. Yeah, it's just another small town where the edges get so hard to reach. Wasting away on my best years, living out here on this crystal beach. Cough syrup and matchbooks, coffee filter starter spray. Takes a special kind of poison to survive this day to day. At the end of a dirt road, the heat never gets too high. Sheriff's got bigger problems, like a runoff this July. Mama keeps children, no, they never want on me. Hides behind a Bible, blocking things she shouldn't see. Yeah, it's just another small town where the edges get so hard to reach. Wasting away all my best years, living out here on this crystal beach. When a man gets greedy, it's when it all goes wrong. Signaling you should say, sparking it's all gone. Flames lit the night sky, there's a maker we would have met. Might have told the children, fell asleep with a cigarette. Yeah, it's just another small town where the edges get so hard to reach. Wasting away all my best years, living out here on this crystal beach. Wasting away on the best years, living out here on this
is Crystal Beach.
All right, I'll do one. Okay, Out the Door. This song's called Out the Door.
This is driving me crazy, 'cause I know that something's off. What's up with you lately? I can't put my finger on, this ain't gonna break me, 'cause this is how I live my life. I'm not the girl that you lied to, and you only get one strike. I'm listening now, you're gonna say it out loud. Don't do me no favors by hanging around. Just tell me it's over, don't wanna do this back and forth, 'cause this ain't no fun for us no more. Yeah, I'll go. Ooh, just watch me go. Yeah, watch me walk right out the door, 'cause I'm good at go. Watch me go. You should know this about me. I could flip my emotions like a switch. Wasn't stopping you, baby. If you need to scratch that itch, don't take me the wrong way. I liked having you around, but you take me for stupid. And I'm halfway out of town. Smart girl's always got her bag packed and ready. Yeah, it's better to leave than to get left. And I'm just telling you now that you ain't gonna stop me, 'cause I'm only looking out for myself like my grandma taught me. Yeah, I'll go. Ooh, just watch me go. Yeah, watch me walk right out the door, 'cause I'm good at go. Watch me go. Watch me go, watch me walk right out the door. Yes, I'm good at go, and your eyes say things I can't ignore. Just watch me go. Watch me go. Watch me go.
Thank you so much. We will hear another song later on in the program. Thank you so much for always coming and having such beautiful music to share with us. We really appreciate it. And now, I don't know if you've noticed, but the programming committee has just been knocking it out of the park. They have been doing a lot of wonderful and different things. And we hope you've noticed it, and we hope you're enjoying it. And so one of the members of our programming committee came up with this idea, Perla. She came up with this idea to have a panel on men's health. And so she's sort of spearheaded this. She is going to run and moderate the panel today. So it is a panel, men's mental health panel. We'll be featuring 4 of our community members speaking on the mental health challenges men are facing, which is a very, very important topic in these times. So, Perla, if you want to come up and take the stage, we'd love to see what you've put together.
Thank you, guys. I would like to call all my panelists up to the front. I'm going to introduce them real quick. So I love featuring our community members, and I'm really excited for you guys to get to know them, for all of us to get to know each other. That's what community is all about. So I'm going to introduce Adam over there at the end. He is a little bit of a newer addition to our community. Adam Medhurst, he's from Kent, England. He's 44 years old. He suffered from major depressive disorder and suicide ideation since he was 9 years old, and he's very, very active in the men's mental health space, and very passionate about it. Our next member is Richard. A lot of you know him. He's an OG Oasis member. Has been for over 11 years, or about 11 years. He helps people with opioid addiction. His mental health challenges are anxiety issues and being a hyper empath, and his mental health strengths are anxiety issues and being a hyper empath. Also same. And then our next member is Jacob Atchison. He is also a very long time OACN, and he actually just graduated and got his LPCA license to become a a mental health therapist, and he specializes in men's mental health. So if you need therapy, please see him after the program. No, seriously. And then our last panel member is Lucas. He has been at Oasis for about a year. He's very passionate about mental health issues, and sorry, I have it on my phone. In 2010, he was diagnosed with depression, panic disorder, and severe social anxiety. He aims to create an environment where discussion around mental health is encouraged and hopefully becomes the norm. So these are the panel members.
That's too much trouble.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for participating. So I'm going to ask questions. Feel free. Anybody can answer. And if you don't feel comfortable answering a question, you don't have to. So first question is, how do cultural norms and societal expectations impact men's mental health, and what can be done to create a more supportive environment for men to express their vulnerabilities?
I would say that cultural norms and societal expectations impact men's mental health by basically the norms are in a box, and if someone doesn't fit in that box, they are concerned that they might not themselves be, they might not themselves be a man. I'm like, oh, I don't like sports. I prefer science, something like that, like just more traditionally masculine things, versus just what can fit neatly in a box rather than what's more along the human spectrum. And I think that can really help, is saying just because you don't fit into a category doesn't mean you're not part of the B community, things like that.
Hello. So I just want to firstly thank you because from someone probably 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been comfortable enough to do this. And it's a fantastic thing, I think, for us to talk about in terms of cultural norms and societal expectations. I'm from a place where as a kid, I was told not to speak unless I'm spoken to. I was told not to cry. I'm a soccer coach, and I see that a lot with dads getting angry at their kids for crying. And it's really something in my culture and my upbringing was never discussed. At 21 years old, I was seeing a therapist, a counselor, and no one even spoke about depression. No one even spoke about mental health. Thankfully, it's changed now, but coming from a culture like that, where it's a stiff upper lip, you don't talk about your problems, you don't talk about your feelings, coming from a place as a man who is supposed to be a provider and someone that is, supposed to provide for the family and is supposed to, these expectations that are put on men is huge, and not all men are like that. So, how do we create a more supportive environment? We vocalize it. We make it normal. If someone has cancer, they're celebrated, right? Oh, they survived cancer. Well, I've survived suicide twice. Yet that conversation is not seen as something positive. It's not discussed. It's not spoken about. So as a man, I'm a big believer in voicing what goes on in my head, not just for other people to listen and to hear, but also for me to understand and listen what I'm saying. And rather than that inner voice going round and round, getting it out and speaking about it, and like I say, normalizing it is huge for me.
So my experience coming from a fairly traditional Hispanic family, where your problems in the family stay in the family. You don't talk to relatives or anything else about that. Of course, whenever I told my parents that I was suffering from these mental illnesses, the instant reaction was like, "Don't take pills. Like that's doctor stuff. You don't need that. People will take pills and then they end up killing themselves." So, the biggest hindrance was for me their lack of knowledge. So I did my own research. I found a couple of books online that explain, mental health for family members, which I think has been a rather big help. And also Netflix has come out with numerous documentaries about mental health recently. So I think ever since COVID, there's been a surge in that because it is needed. But even to this day, I know they don't fully understand it. But I do try. So I mean that's the most that we can do just to help other people understand.
With regard to what I do professionally, opioid addiction, I hear patients the whole time I'm in the clinic coming in saying, I want to get off of this medicine, I want to reduce the dose, which is a lovely idea if it works, and sometimes it does, and I support anybody who has that as a goal. In fact, at the very beginning, when they're first admitted to treatment, we generally use opioid replacements, basically, because even though some people call that continuing the addiction, the alternative is a person goes out and uses fentanyl and dies tonight, So, but family members especially will be unhappy that this individual is continuing to take the treatment, even though it's successfully keeping them off of street drugs and keeping them from their greatest risk, which is dying of an overdose. And so the person is hearing this stigma in their head all the time, are you successfully, are you doing well? Are you repairing relationships? Are you able to hold down a job? Are you able to do the things you weren't able to do before because you're on treatment? But rather, there's an assumption that well, of course you're going to get off of the medicine at some point. And like I say, some people do get off of medicine, just like some diabetics get off of insulin. That does happen. But there shouldn't be an assumption that getting off of a treatment that is life-saving should be a goal no matter what. You see, and it turns out, and we have very good data on this, turns out that once somebody has an opioid addiction, 80% of them will do better staying on treatment long-term, which is about the same as it is for diabetics and insulin. Assuming insulin's the right therapy, which it isn't for every diabetic, but.
Thank you guys for sharing. What strategies have you found effective in breaking the stigma around mental health issues among men, both in professional and in everyday life, professional settings and everyday life?
So professionally, again, working in soccer and working with kids, I don't share, purely because, again, I don't feel comfortable in terms of the stigma. So that's something that I've found very hard to do professionally. Personally, again, I've not had great experiences sharing with friends and girlfriends. So I've very much relied on groups. And I will tell you, the first time I walked through the door of a place called Remind, it was the first time in my life I actually removed my mask and I could be who I wanted to be and who I actually am, as opposed to, you know, people say, a lot of people say mental health, people that go struggle through mental health could be great actors because we hide every single day. We wear masks every single day. And it was funny, I was back in England. I'm from England, not Australia, as many of you are probably thinking. I was back in England in the summer, and my best friend who I lived with, and known since 13 years old, I had a conversation with him, and I said, how did you see me in my early teens and my 20s? And he was like, oh, you're the strongest guy in the world, like, you know, you'd never let anything affect you. And it astounded me that no one knew. No one knew. You know, I hid it so well. So in terms of those strategies, I think when I first came to America, actually meeting people that every story is different. No one shares the same story. Every mental health condition is different. But meeting people that I could relate to, that understood me, that had empathy for my situation was huge. And again, it's that talking, it's that ability to vocalize what goes on in our heads, especially as men, that is huge. And I just want to throw a few stats in. I don't know if you know this, but where I'm from, England, if you are 45 or younger and a man, you are more likely to die from your own hand than from any other disease or anything else out there. So I'm more likely to take my own life than I am to die from cancer or any disease. That blows my mind. In America, I know with men, it's later in life that's the biggest issue, but I think it's number 7. Which again, it's astounding numbers, and 4 out of 5 of every suicide in America and in England is by a man. Yet we don't have. I go to Remind and they're amazing, they're fantastic, but they don't have men-only groups. And for me, thinking about it logically, I have no problem sharing in front of women or men. I see everything equal, but I'm sure there's a lot of men out there that don't want to share in front of women purely because of the expectations of a man in society today. So I think that's an area that if anyone wants to jump on board and start an organization, I'm well behind that. So.
Yeah, you prompted me, Adam, to talk a little bit about what are sometimes called mutual help groups. AA is the most famous example. And people who know a lot about AA have a love-hate relationship, or sometimes just a hate relationship with AA. But AA is often misunderstood because it's not about the organization doesn't tell the individual groups what to do. Each group has its own personality, and sometimes that can be a difficult personality. But you talked about being in a group and being comfortable discussing anything and being vulnerable. And then getting support from the group. With an AA group or a Narcotics Anonymous group or any one of these other groups, they will often advertise, or they should advertise, are they open meetings or closed meetings? And if they're closed meetings, you should really only go to that meeting if you have that issue. You know, and that helps people who are not comfortable discussing it and put in front of people who don't have the issue. But if it's an open meeting, I encourage you to go to it if you've never done that. It's the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. The sharing and the wisdom is just mind-boggling.
I would say one of the effective strategies for breaking down the stigma of men's mental health is normalization, either via media or real-life figures. Like, I'm sure a lot of us have seen The Sopranos. 20 years ago, Tony Soprano was regularly in therapy with Dr. Melfi. And I feel like that might have been one of the first examples, because, like, you know, mobster, stereotypical tough guy Tony Soprano was in therapy talking about what his issues were. And then there's been other real-life figures. Recently, U.S. Senator John Fetterman checked himself into a clinic for depression. And, you know, just looking at him, he's exactly what you would think of as, like, stereotypical tough guy. He was very vocal about that. And I think having someone in their life being vocal about, like, hey, you know, I'm not doing so good, here's what's been going on. And I think that's a two-way street, too. I think there needs to be that, the fostering of the supportive environment, so that men can be like, hey, I'm having struggles, here's what's going on. I'm not necessarily looking for immediate help, but I'm like, I need to talk to someone about this. So just normalization and creating a more supportive environment can really help break down the stigma.
And actually, speaking to having done self-committal myself, I have found that extremely helpful. Suffering from depression, suicidal ideation at the time. But the strategy that I found most effective is just being upfront and talking about it. I'm an open book. I will tell anyone, you know, all about my issues with my depression, anxiety. But I think just being able to talk to coworkers, talk to friends, talk to family, just as if it's nothing, because it really isn't. It should be a part of everyday conversation rather than the, hey, how are you? Doing all right yourself? No, none of us are doing all right, pretty much. I mean, come on. Look at everything that's going on. So just pausing and having an honest conversation with somebody is gonna let them know that you've opened up to them. They will feel comfortable and open up to you in kind. So that is what I found the most useful.
That was awesome. Thank you, guys. This is not a pre-planned question, so sorry, and you don't have to answer it. But I wanted to see if you could tell us, as a community, what are some things that we can do as women, as just other people, to make you guys feel more comfortable to come and talk about these things? Are there is there anything that we can do to make it easier for you guys, for men?
Well, personally speaking, you yourself have reached out to me saying, like, hey, let's go grab lunch. Let's you know, just sit and talk for a while. So just having friends like that makes a world of difference. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, that kind of thing, just little things, just, hey, do you want to talk? Over dinner, whatever. It really helps a lot.
I think creating the space to have those kind of talks can really help a lot as well. Just like, hey, you know, if there's something bothering you, don't hesitate to talk to me about that ever.
Maybe we could put together a panel. How's that? So maybe we could put together a panel of, oh, wait, we did that already. Okay, yeah. No, I think just discussing things openly, and of course, by having a men's mental health panel discussion, this is not in lieu of something for women. Women should have, I don't know if we've had that already or not, but that's another thing we could do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, having bad experiences, telling people, it's very hard to kind of open myself up to that. But definitely asking someone twice if they're okay, rather than just once, I think is huge and gives them an opportunity then to know that you care, as opposed to it's just a question that we always ask. But yeah, I like I say, I would never have done this 6 months ago. So just sitting in front of all these faces and sharing what goes on in my mind is pretty huge for me. So thank you, Perla.
Well, thank you guys. I'm very grateful to all of you for being able to do this, wanting to do this. What coping mechanisms have you found most helpful, either personally or professionally, for dealing with mental health challenges?
So for me, first of all, is understanding why. Yes, there's chemical imbalances in my brain. I've had this since I was, very, very young. But also, I'm from I had an abusive alcoholic father, and up until last year, and a 9-hour conversation with a woman I never met on online dating, I never realised it wasn't just my dad that I had the issues with. My mum was an amazing woman who worked 7 days a week to help, but I didn't realise that a big part of my self-esteem was down to my mum as well. And then I had a brother who was probably 10 times more abusive physically and mentally to me than my dad ever was. So understanding that and being open to that and realising that, I think, is huge. Diagnosis, I think, there's always the medical route, as you say in America, that you should go down. Just again, to have that diagnosis, I think, is huge. Exercise, for me, is a must every day. Gut health, food. I'm a big believer in it's our second brain, right? If my gut is feeling good, then my brain tends to be a lot better working. So definitely I'm aware of what I put into my body, alcohol, substances, which I was a naughty kid in my teens and 20s, so I did a lot of stuff I probably shouldn't have done, and probably affected my brain as well. Meditation has been huge, especially in the last 6 months, and I don't know if anyone uses the Calm app, but oh my God, it's literally changed my life, and it's helped my brain understand exactly what's going on and being okay with feeling not okay. I think that's huge, right? It's okay not to feel okay. And then the last thing is, is the groups that I attend and vocalizing what goes on in my head. And also I'll add to that crying. I use crying, I use an analogy, and for so long I felt crying was a point of weakness, when now I think it's a huge strength that I have. And I use it like the Houston summer, right? The heat builds and builds and builds, and it's 159 degrees. And then all of a sudden you hear that crackle of thunder, and the rain comes down. And it's that release, the temperature goes down 10 degrees. And then when it stops raining, you have that instant before it gets to 1,000 degrees again, where everything is calm. And for me, that ability to cry and to get rid of that emotion is huge. And I encourage it and encourage it and encouraging it. And just if you see kids crying, I'm a father, and when I see my kid crying on the soccer field, sometimes it's hard, like, get up, just go and do it. But I understand that there's always a reason why someone is crying. Let's normalize that. Let's make it okay to have a tear in your eye,
Am I doing it right?
Hello, hello.
This is going to make me cry, I think. So, sometimes understanding a mechanism is helpful, and sometimes it isn't, right? Sometimes we're going to feel something anyway. But there's a tendency to try to understand, and sometimes there is something that happened to us that makes us feel a certain way, and that's important to understand. But bear in mind that there's evidence that suggests that in some cases, where there was no obvious precursor, that it is something that may have evolved. Anxiety, for example, and even depression, and this is one of those things that's hard to prove, but let's say, for example, if there really wasn't anything that made you feel anxious or depressed, remember that most of our evolution, for those of us that believe in evolution, which I think is 99.9% of us, I'm going to guess, if you were not the top monkey and not as strong as the top monkey, but you want to challenge the top monkey, that may not work out very well for you, right? And so having a certain amount of inbred fear or anxiety, not always wanting to be completely fearless, that can be actually protective, because there can only be one top monkey, and it's not always good to challenge everything, right? Not to say that it's good to feel that way, but it's good to recognize, for example, with obsessive compulsive. I definitely have obsessive compulsive tendencies, and a lot of physicians do. And you want your accountant and your healthcare provider to pay attention to the details. You want that, right? You may not want that person arranging the party, right? So there. That's why I say there, and that's why I phrased it the way I did. Sometimes, something that can be problematic can also be an asset, and so if we help people and ourselves recognize that, we won't always think, oh my God, why do I feel this way? Well, part of it is because you evolved. That's right. You evolved from a microbe and then went on from there. So,
I would say a coping mechanism that's helped me personally is I like doing activities that are not super mentally intensive, but I'm still able to keep me occupied, which is why I like cooking so much. Able to, restructure my mind into focusing on that, which is something fun. And while at the same time acknowledging that there may be a concern that I need to address. So I think developing a sense of self-awareness is a good first step into recognizing then what I might need to do next to address the problem. Sort of like thinking of it as IKEA instructions. Hey, here's the coffee table. What are the tools I need to put this together?
Weed. And there are, of course, Texas has legal versions of weed. However, it really does help. I've got, until then, I always had trouble sleeping, but, I took one of the Delta 8 gummies, slept great, woke up feeling great. But that's a big coping mechanism for myself, as well as prescribed medication. And also what a friend helped me kind of realize was that one of the coping mechanisms that I use is finding something that you love doing and just doing that. So for me, it is volunteering at the SPCA, so helping all the little guys try and get adopted and things like that. And I also changed careers. I got out of a toxic work environment and started working at a dog daycare. And I mean, it's a great feeling walking into the room and have 30 or 40 dogs just so excited to see you. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, weed and dogs, I guess. So that's a great one. So, yeah, thank you.
Houston Oasis does not condone the usage of Delta 8 or weed. We strongly encourage you to check your municipal laws and follow accordingly.
The benefit of having a mental health professional on the panel. All right. What are some common barriers men face when seeking mental health support, and how can these be addressed on a systemic and individual level?
So for me, a common barrier, and I'll use an example. Back home, there was 2 soccer players. One soccer player got cancer, and I listened to a radio station called Talk Sport. And my mum had cancer. I'm not against cancer, by the way, so she survived. But I keep bringing cancer up. But the phone-in that they did, it was, oh my God, I hope you get better. And it was all support, support, support. One guy had a mental health breakdown. And the difference in the talk show was, what's he got to be depressed about? He earns $6 million a year, or $20 million a year. It was, you know, well, he's just using it as an excuse. And that stigma, to hear that, you know, was demoralizing. And if you're not going to support people who, right, we know more about the ocean, right, than we know about our brains. If you're not going to support someone who is going through a mental health challenge, that is experiencing, you know, again, I can only talk about my journey, but what I've experienced, that's not a nice place to be. And to hear people speak like that, who have no understanding, no empathy, no sympathy, and just throw out words, is very demoralizing to someone that's, that suffers from that. So I think, again, when we seek mental health support as a man, we need that. We need support. We need to be listened to. We need to be understood. And hopefully the tide is turning, and you know, people are starting to talk about it more. I think it's huge that professionals are coming out now and talking about their mental health, but I think it's also huge for nobodies like me to sit and to talk about mental health, because who knows who's in the crowd. You know, I'm not a billionaire, I'm not a celebrity, but I also suffer from what these guys do as well. So I think it's very important to be a voice, and to, you know, and to lead the charge against this systemic you know, downplay of what is a huge, we've seen the figures, right, is a huge problem in society today.
So families, as we know, can be wonderful and they can be terrible, right? And I think many of us have experienced that. Like I said, you know, with my patients in the opioid addiction clinic, I hear patients all the time thinking they have to do something that somebody in their family is telling them they absolutely have to do X, even though that individual is not medically trained, not professional, and they don't really know what the consequences are. And so I would say that's one of the biggest barriers I run into. As Adam alluded to earlier, you know, having a space that you can go into, you know, if you have somebody who is struggling with really any particular mental health issue, but particularly addiction, you know, encouraging them to take advantage of some mutual support group, I think is critical. It's as critical as the medicine, and in some cases more. But it doesn't have to be AA or NA, because again, they have a certain amount of baggage and it doesn't always work out. Basically, the trick with these groups is you go to a group, and if that group is not working for you, don't say, therefore all of NA or AA is bad. You go to another group. It isn't the overall concept of meeting with your peers that doesn't work. It's that individual group, you see. So you just go find another group. And smart recovery, by the way, smart recovery is something you may not have heard of, but that's a science-based mutual support group where you're not going to have somebody telling you, you need to do it the way I did it, young man, you know, so smart recovery is another option for you, and it's free, just like AA or NA is free.
So I would say kind of helping break down the stigma is applying a more logical standard, like just thinking, you know, if something's going on with your car, you're not just going to keep ignoring it. You're going to take it into a mechanic. I love the meme of literally do anything rather than go to therapy. My favorite example being due to literally wait 300 years to defeat the Kurgan rather than go to therapy. There's our Gen Xers. But just, I really think sort of like asking it in an either or format, like, okay, you might feel better temporarily after punching a wall, but when you get down to one, you're going to have an expensive repair if you're not going to do it yourself, and two, or the other end, that hole in the wall is still going to be there, and you're not going to feel any better later. So I think really thinking of it as a long-term investment in your in mental health logically is really can help break down that stigma. Just really, I think even oversimplifying it like that.
So for me, the most common, what was it again? The most common barrier when when seeking mental health support is just access. That book that I was speaking to earlier, the whole last third of the book talks about how to actually get help, because sometimes it can be very difficult. So just that somebody has to write a book about how to find care says enough. I mean, but as far as how to, for that to be addressed, that's above my pay grade. So, like, yeah. But yeah, I think right now it's just the access, and so what people can do is just find support groups online. There's plenty in the Houston area that are for depression or suicidal ideation, things like that. So, yeah, check your local. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all the time we have left for the main panel. We're going to break for music and coffee, and then afterward, we're going to have a Q&A session where any one of you guys can ask questions to our panels. So stay tuned.
So we will start with a song from Brightwire. Are y'all up for that? With coffee and song and music. And then we're going to go into the question and answer segment, and then we'll have some final notes at the end. So, okay. All right. Brightwire.
Thank y'all. Okay. Thank y'all to everybody who came up to me at the break and said that they were glad to see us back. We're glad to see y'all's faces too. We started out at Galveston Bay Oasis back in 2017?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So we've been Oasins for a while.
All right. So, good thing to bring up, I guess, relevant for today is we're talking about coping mechanisms for mental health. Songwriting's been a great mechanism. It's one of those things where you can still talk about all the stuff going on, but you can still be kind of you don't have to be 100% up front with it.
You can vague book.
Tell everyone all your mental issues without having to be like, this is what's wrong with me. So it's only really mentally stressing when you record it. Then the depression comes back. Cause you're like, I can't play it right for 3 minutes straight. But here we're going to try a new one. So, be brave. If we crash and burn, we're amongst friends. So, all right. See how it goes. I just wrote this one probably about a month ago, so we'll see how it goes. Back to say my phone. I just called to see if yours was still on. Coming back to town, wanted to call you first. Wonder if you're still hanging downtown, hitting the bars and letting your head down. Me, I ain't losing, no coming in first. You could say I'm living like the best of the worst. You ever dream back, baby?
Dream back, baby.
To a day burning it down.
Do you ever wish I might have stayed around?
Been around this country, hit the road with no plan to quit.
Tried to finish this puzzle, but you're the only piece that's ever fit.
You still got that dog we found on the streets. You always had a thing for much like me. Still right there with you, riding in your purse. Glad to hear my voice, or are you feeling cursed? You ever dream back, baby?
Dream back, baby.
To a day burning it down.
Do you ever wish I might have stayed around?
Been around this country, hit the road with no plan to quit.
Tried to finish my puzzle, but you're the only piece that's ever fit.
My buddy's leaving, so I gotta go. You believe it, baby, coming home. You always said I'd probably come back in a hearse. Call back real soon, gotta catch this bus first. finish my puzzle, but
You're the only piece that's ever fit.
All right, I guess we have time for one more. The song's about getting out of town. It's called Better Off Gone. We hope y'all dig it. Thanks for having us back. Well, I guess one more thing we should say. At 3 o'clock today, we are playing over at Dan Electro, so if y'all are bored today, swing on by. All right. This old town knows exactly where we've been. Street corner reminders of all our conquests and our sin.
Now the storefronts, they all sit empty and decayed, while our memories, they rest here just the same. 'Cause these streets are filled with ghosts best left alone. No, I think we'd be better off gone. Let these wheels turn, the horizon will be our home. No, I think we'd be better off gone. Better off gone. Better off gone. Streetlights are busted, they got us living in the dark. Know there's a light out there, we just gotta find the spark. There's no future when we're dwelling in the past. There's a whole world out there, let's go and make our path. 'Cause these streets are filled with ghosts best left alone. No, I think we'd be better off gone. Let these wheels turn, the horizon will be our home. No, I think we'd be better off gone. Better off gone.
From these streets, holding memories of everyone who left behind.
Left us all behind.
Yeah, these streets where our dreams crashed and burned.
Lessons we had to learn. Make it out alive. Make it out alive. Out alive. 'Cause these streets are filled with ghosts best left alone. No, I think we'd be better off gone. Let these wheels turn, the horizon will be our home. No, I think we'd be better off gone. Better off gone. Better off gone. Better off gone.
Thank you. That was awesome. All right, guys. So we're gonna start our Q&A. Okay. If I do want to say, please, to keep it to questions, one-sentence questions, so we can get as many as possible. If you have comments and want to start a conversation, they would be happy to after the program. Alrighty. I saw it.
What advice would you give to your 18-year-old selves?
You don't have to have your whole life figured out at exactly 18, because take it from me, you will discover 10 years from now what you've been doing is not what you want to do the rest of your life.
Stop taking. It's on?
Yeah.
Stop taking drugs would be the first thing. Stop going out and partying. But I think the biggest thing would be to look into the mirror and accept yourself for who you are and love yourself. And no matter what happened to you as a kid, know that your self-worth is more than what you felt or what experiences that you actually went through. So we're all made of love. It's just sometimes we get lost on the way, right?
Exercise more.
Hi, I wanted to ask, what do you guys do to address people that say, I'm depressed, stop acting so bipolar, and they use kind of these medical terminology very, very lightly?
That is a great question. What I would love to have up on my wall is the actual definition of narcissistic personality disorder and ask, does someone meet that requirement? I would say, you can't use a DSM-5 recognized diagnosis as a mood. That's not a thing. You could suspect I might be bipolar, or I'm experiencing mood swings is more than what's likely, or I'm feeling depressed. I might not necessarily have depression, but might be feeling depressed. If someone is reporting mood swings, I would definitely encourage them to talk to a professional.
I would take it seriously. If someone is talking about having these feelings, I would discuss it with them, and maybe you find out that it's not what they believe it is to be, or maybe you find out that it is. But I think there are people out there that use mental health as an excuse, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that if it starts a discussion.
I think I would say, since I'm, as you've heard, such a big fan of support groups, the first step might not be to respond to that individual, but rather to maybe participate in a support group and hear what other people have successfully done. Because then you've got a whole room full of people that know exactly what you are feeling, and you're hearing the wisdom of the ages.
Thank you. Is this turned on? I was thinking about what I'm calling for myself mindless learned responses, and I was I think the example right now is what a lot of politicians and mindless people are calling thoughts and prayers. Oh, we're so okay. So instead of responding to a request like what you're just describing, with, oh, my thoughts and prayers are with you, or something like that. Can we find a source for the vocabulary, for the I mean, short of going to one of these groups and listening to what the participants are saying so that we can respond to our friends, family. I have suggested to our friend Terry Hibbert that she write a play, that would come up with dialogue that would help in different situations of our lives, and maybe, because some of the things in my mind that I learned as I was growing up were totally inappropriate, and yet I hear myself coming up with those to the surface. I say, no, this is not appropriate. Thank you.
So I would say if you were to have prepared dialogue, what that does is it very much runs the risk of platitudes, similar to thoughts and prayers. So I think what can really help is asking someone, what is your concern? Why, what does have you worried? Like, maybe they hear an upsetting news story. Like, do you feel like that's something that's going to happen to you personally? Does that affect someone in your life? So I think asking meaningful, open-ended questions rather than having platitudes or prepared dialogue, I think can go a long way in letting the person know that you are an emotionally supportive person.
I think if you want understanding, there's a million documentaries, there's a million podcasts that you can listen to from people that have experienced and been through certain types of depression, bipolar, whatever that may be. So if you want to understand maybe how to react to someone that tells you stuff like that without really getting into it, you know, those podcasts, those documentaries are huge and gives people that maybe don't have a level of understanding of what we go through, you know, the ability to respond.
I should say also, in addition to these open support groups, there's virtually always a family version of that, so that people who are attending don't necessarily have the issue themselves, but they have a loved one that has the issue, and then you're learning again. It sounds funny to say that you're hearing the wisdom of the ages, but I've just been stunned by the wisdom I've heard in these groups.
Good morning, thank you. I've really enjoyed this panel. I've had my own personal struggles with depression and anxiety. I'll be real quick about it, but it has stemmed from my struggles to get really established in a decent paying career. For those that whenever they talk with me, I personally consider economic class issues more important for me than LGBTQ rights or abortion rights. Don't get me wrong, they're very important. But this leads to, there's what's called deaths of despair and situational depression, in which somebody's situation that just doesn't ending like homelessness leads to depression. There's deaths of despair, inability to find a decent paying job, and ability to keep a roof over their head, and the fact that the American economy is very, very almost impossible for a lot of people, and has gotten worse for the past 4.5 decades ever since Reagan got in. I just want to speak to y'all's thoughts on how a lot of basic situational problems are affecting men's mental health, and in ways that all the best therapy and all the best medication in the world can only make a dent in without doing something about the situation, the actual situation in their lives. Just want to get y'all's thoughts.
I think for me, it's small steps. I would much rather be depressed than a millionaire than depressed and have no money. I've found out from the health system here, it's been good, but it's not been amazing. If I was in England, it would be easy for me to get help. I'm actually medication free now, but I probably went through about the last maybe 7 years of major depression, and it's really only in the last 6 to 9 months since that amazing phone call that I had that I've really kind of made those small steps. So, you know, for me, getting out in public, speaking to people, going to events, even on my own, you know, just those little things, a coffee shop and having a conversation, like just getting myself out of what goes on in here for the majority of the day, I think is huge. And those little tiny steps have now built to me being on a panel talking about stuff that for 45 years I would never have discussed in public. So tiny steps make big steps for me.
Yeah, Stephen, I think you brought up a good point, and that is that sometimes there are other factors. In fact, frequently there are other factors. So for example, there's a movement many of you have heard of called Housing First. A lot of the patients I deal with struggle with housing issues, and if they don't have decent housing, you know, then of course they're going to have mental health issues, right? I would have mental health issues if I didn't have decent housing. And or even transportation, you know, sometimes They say that a system functions exactly the way it's designed to function, right? So I think absolutely we could do a lot more in that regard.
I think something else that can go a long way is outreach, connecting with community services, making sure getting people hooked up with what exactly it is they need. There's this department, they can help you, and things like that. So education on those kinds of resources, I think can go a long way.
There's a spectrum of good days and bad days for all of us. And that prompts me to wonder, what's in your toolbox for subacute care in terms of defenses or coping mechanisms to deal with the bad days when they come along?
So meditation for me has been huge in the last, probably the last 6 to 7 months. There was a time, and it's got better now, but for a good 3 years, I would wake up and think, shit, I'm still alive. That's no way to get out of bed. So the first thing I do now is I get out and I meditate. And I work on my breath and I work on my feelings and the positivity that these meditations give. Then I exercise. So, even in those darkest days now, I have a habitual process that I go through, and it doesn't always work, but just because you wake up and feel a certain way at 8 a.m. in the morning doesn't mean you're going to feel the same way at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So again, realizing that and having that understanding that this can be temporary and it can get better is huge. Hope is what we live for, right?
And that's a great description right there of cognitive behavioral therapy. In other words, anticipating that certain feelings, certain situations will arise, because that's the nature of life. And instead of having to make up a solution on the spot, you already know when I feel X or when X occurs, I already know what I'm going to do. And that's having a bag of tricks, as it were, and you've always got access to that bag, or a bag of tools, maybe a better way to put it.
I think another good thing to have in the bag of tools is when you are having that bad day is doing something that doesn't require a whole lot of brain activity. Maybe requires more physical activity, like go jogging or walking, things like that, or setting yourself out to accomplish a small task. Your mind's not racing, and you've just kind of the singular focus on getting the task done.
But also as well, it's okay not to feel okay. It's okay to be in that moment where you feel depressed or you feel suicidal or you feel whatever you feel. And accepting that, again, I think is huge. We always strive to be happy, right? We strive to have a better life for ourselves. But sometimes in that moment, for me, being at my deepest, darkest depths with the knife at my hand or the rope around my neck, not a lot of people feel that in their life. And I've been there and I'm still here. So again, that is something that now I understand and I accept how I was feeling at that time. And hopefully I'll never go back, but accept where you are in your life, and hopefully these strategies that we all talk about move you to a higher elevation, but it's okay not to be okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to mention, for me, the SBCA is open 7 days a week. So, I mean, if I'm having a bad day and I have the time, then absolutely just go volunteer, walk the little dogs. They always need help, and just working with those, neglected animals who are hopefully will find their forever home. Just being a part of that it just gives you a great feeling.
What you just said, Adam, reminded me of a book I just read called Uncertain, which is instead of this, thrust to be always on task and always, ambitious and moving forward, is, recognizing sometimes the value of sort of lingering in ambiguity and realizing that you won't always be in that spot. But my main question is, Lucas, if you could talk again about that book that you mentioned about, is it mental health and family or something? I didn't quite get the title.
Yes, I'll have to actually pull that up from my Amazon purchases, but I can definitely get that to you after, once we're done here. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, guys, but our time is up, but they're going to be available afterwards, I think.
Thank you so much, panel. Oh, Jacob, let me finish thanking you. Thank you, guys. Then Perla, thank you. She brought this idea to the programming committee a while ago, and they were so excited about it, and it's just wonderful. Thank you. It was a really well-needed day. Okay, Jacob.
This isn't in the bulletin, but Saturday, September 21st, we're having our first bar night after a long hiatus. We will be at the Bull and Bear Tavern, 11980 Westheimer at 7 p.m. Hope to see y'all there.
All right, and we have an announcement from Kelly Rhodes.
Hello, thank you so much for the panel. It was so great. So I'm on the volunteer committee for Oasis. I mostly wanted to get Pride festivals on your mind, but there's some additional things that are coming up, so I just want to run through them real quick. So there's food bank volunteering on Saturday the 28th. So that's the last Saturday of the month, from 1 to 4. You have to register ahead of time. There's a link in the meetup event. And so the Woodlands Pride Festival is on Saturday, October 12th, and it will go from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Katy Pride has a festival on Saturday, October 19th, so the next week, and it goes from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We will have a booth there, our Pride Beyond Belief booth, that we had at Houston Pride. We had a ton of fun, and we met a lot of people, gave out merch for the groups, so we'd love to have you come and show support. We have sign-ups for both of those Pride festivals on a flyer at the welcome booth, welcome table rather. And there's some pins there if you want to take one of those. Let's see. And then it will be cooler. It won't be as crowded. Houston Pride is chaotic because it's in June in Houston. But the other two are more low-key, cooler weather. So it's a great experience if you have the time. And we will be doing trainings too. We'll be having multiple virtual half-hour trainings before the event, so you'll know what you're getting into. You can ask questions, and we'll discuss about the groups. So you'll be prepared to, promote all the secular groups there. And then lastly, we have a blood drive at the end of October. So it's a little ways away, but if you're planning on donating soon, hold off and donate for our blood drive. We had 17 donations last time, which was amazing. We have to have a minimum of 10 to get the van to come back. So thank you so much for everyone who donated last time, and save the date for October 27th during the Sunday gathering. So they usually start 9:30 in the morning, and they'll go till about 1 in the afternoon, so we can keep supporting the area. Thank you.
Most of you probably know it, but Kelly wears many hats and does many wonderful things for our community, and so thank you so much. When we were doing Houston Pride, I was on the committee, knowing full well I would not be able to go out in the heat and still remain alive. But I went to the makers market she had set up, and I walked in, and everybody was making something, building something, putting some swag together, for the thing, and it was really amazing to see all that. So Kelly, thank you for all that you do for us. We really appreciate it. A couple of announcements. Number one, next week we're going to have Dr. Anthony Penn here, and that's very exciting. But we're going to need more help. We're going to need people to help set up more chairs. We're going to need people to help take stuff down, because we're expecting a large crowd. So anybody that can come early and then help us with the transition to the bring your own lunch portion. Yesterday we had a board meeting, a 5-hour board meeting at Jennifer Payton's house. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for hosting us for all that time. We really appreciate it. And many things we were able to get taken care of, the budget, a bunch of things that we really, really needed to talk through, and we did it. But the one thing, one thing that for next week is for the bring your own lunch portion, we tend to order pizza because when the meeting's over, there's no food sitting around. So what we're going to do is put a table in the back, so if everybody wants to put their food that they brought on the table instead of leaving it. Because we need to have ordered the pizza by then. And so then we know how much we have and if we need to order pizza or not, or how many pizzas we need to order or whatever we might need to add to it. This way, because last week, there was no food sitting out. Jennifer went and got pizzas and came back to like Thanksgiving, which was lovely. It was lovely. And, feel free to bring something. Feel free to just bring your own lunch, however you want to do it. But we really don't want to overbuy. If, we want to buy just the right amount. So we need your help, and we'll have a table set up for us to put all of our lovely dishes we're bringing. Yes?
Terry, we used to get the email several days ahead of time, what the program was going to be and everything. And I know you always say it's the second and fourth, potluck. But it comes now Saturday at midnight.
Oh. Right.
About when you're going to do the cooking. So
Right.
if you go to the Houston Oasis website and you go to events and scroll down to the calendar, all of the BYL Sundays are now on the calendar. And you can, if you click on the BYL event, you can add it to your own calendar. Because it's one of those where you can share it to your own calendar. So if you're ever not sure, just go to the Houston Oasis webpage, HoustonOasis.org, events, scroll down to the Google Calendar that's there, and if you look on the Sundays, it'll show all the BYOL Sundays. Okay? Yeah, if you think about that several days. Yeah, it's good. I realize. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay, pet owners of Oasis, Tish is putting together a community moment, and she would like to have pictures of our pets and a little something about the pet, the name or something underneath it to celebrate all of our pets that we own. And you will find her tishperez@gmail.com. It says include your name, pet's name, optional any fun facts or whatever. Like I will be putting a picture of Leo because my husband and his cat Leo have a very, very strong bromance. And I'm not a part of that relationship at all, except that I put food down for both of them. Anyway, we are making a cookbook. Please be sure to take a look at getting the recipes in for our cookbook. And there's Oasis Book Club coming up. And like I said, next week we have Dr. Anthony Penn. It should be a very, very exciting day. Is there anything I missed? Lunch today is at Katz's on Montrose, Westheimer, right on Westheimer, near Montrose. Oh, 616 Westheimer. So that's where lunch will be. And next week is bring your own lunch. And just one more reminder that free thought is not free. We need your recurring donors. We need people who can put money in every week. And if you can't do it, you are welcome to be here. You're welcome to always be here. Yes.
And also, if you are broke like me, we always need volunteers. We have marketing, we have setup, breakdown, and that's another, talking about mental health coping mechanisms, that's an incredible way to give you purpose, to give you something to look forward to feel useful, to actually put your gifts and your skills to use. And for me, it's been amazing. So I really encourage you guys, you can reach out to me afterwards, or you can email board@houstonoasis.org and let them know your contact information and exactly what you would like to do. We need marketing people who know social media. We need somebody to help us with our Twitter, TikTok, with graphics. We need setup, breakdown, coffee people to bring things for our coffee in the mornings. Like, there's always something, so, yes.
Thank you, Perla, definitely. Yay. And, well, I guess with that, we are going to head out to lunch. And well, if you all help put everything away, and have a wonderful week.